My name is Dawn Eagleson, and I'm here today to tell you about my story. I'm an adoptive parent, and my husband John and I adopted our daughter Amelia over 3 years ago through the Cradle. So just to begin, one of the main reasons that couples go through adoption is infertility issues. And so for John and I, that's what we experienced, and we knew early on that we would not be able to have children. We started researching adoption agencies, and the reason we chose the Cradle is just because it really stood out as an agency that cared about the people that were involved, and they had counseling services, and it seemed like everything they did was very thorough. And so after the first meeting, we were assigned an adoption counselor, and that basically started the home study process, and that took us about maybe 7 or 8 months. The home study it's the way for us to get all the paperwork and all the necessary requirements for adoption. So we take a lot of classes. There's a lot of paperwork that we have to go through. They also come out to our home. And then finally, probably the biggest piece of the home study is the Dear Birth Mother letter that sort of tells the brief story of who you guys are as a couple, why you want to adopt, what your lifestyle is like. And that took a bit to work on because any adoptive couple really wants to make it just perfect. After all this was complete, we went on the official waiting list. And that turned out to be the hardest part of the process because you're waiting and you have no idea. You really have no control over what happens. Sort of wait to hear if you're chosen. The best call you'll get. Like they've chosen you and there's steps made to move forward with an adoption plan. And usually at that point, if the birth mother wants to meet with a family, then they'll set up a birth or a match meeting. And in the match meeting is when you actually meet them for the first time. It's like the most extreme blind date you'll ever go on. So I can tell you a little about with Amelia when we got the call from our counselor saying that we've been chosen by her family. It was something that just felt, it was overwhelming. We talked to our counselor and she gave us the information about arranging a match meeting. And so John and I went to the match meeting and met with Amelia's birth mother, her mother, and then their counselor. And I always describe the meeting as just being very heavy. You get there and you meet her, and there's, part of you is very joyful for what's happening, but then the other part is that you now see the other side of adoption, and you see someone making this decision and wanting to be a parent, but not ready to be a parent, and not really having, the means to parent as they would like to. So you see the other side of adoption, and so it's just a very heavy meeting. I remember John and I left that match meeting, and I just felt so emotionally drained. It's just like I felt like I couldn't function. I remember during the match meeting, there are a lot of questions that come up that really make you think about adoption, and one of them was when the adoption counselor looked at Amelia's birth mom and said, so why don't you tell them the name that you've come up with? Working with her or talking to her about what we would name our daughter, and talked about using a middle name that she'd come up with, which we ended up doing. I know that a lot of times we get asked, well, who came up with the name? It's like, well, we came up with it together, and that's just more special to us that the older Amelia gets, the more she realizes that where her name came from. So after the match meeting, we did meet with her family a couple of times, and we talked about, do they want us there at the hospital when she's delivering? Does she want us in the delivery room? We worked on details like that, and also just really got to know her a lot better. And each meeting was it was nicer that we were able to make a connection with each other. And then Amelia was born on a Friday night. Spent the next few days in the hospital with her birth mom and her family. She didn't want to take Amelia home with her. She said, if I do, I'll never let her go. And she didn't want her coming to the Cradle's nursery, even though they have a very nice nursery on site. She said, I want her in someone's home. So she asked John and I if we'd bring her home, and we decided to, and then we brought her home knowing that we'd have to wait until she signed her termination papers. So it was a few days we were just waiting, and then our counselor called and said she has signed all the paperwork, so now you can proceed with all the adoption process. You have to go to court, and one of the best photo opportunities was when Amelia was served by the Cook County Sheriff. So there's a little baby in a car seat, and there's a sheriff touching her with paper just to serve her. but that's the part of the court process. The legal name change, the Social Security card, everything that needs to go into that legal system. And then after 6 months, we get all the paperwork and we get our final birth certificate, Social Security card, and everything comes in, and at that point it's all final. So at that point we had a coming home party for Amelia. It's like our baby shower. She was 6 months old. We stay in touch with her birth family. In fact, we had Christmas with them last night. She and her mom came over, and it's been almost 4 years, and it every year it just gets better and better. The relationship feels more and more like extended family. You know, in the beginning it was very tough, I think for her birth mother especially, because it was just the emotions were so raw. And now it's, you know, like I said, every year it just gets better, and I think it gets easier for everyone because it's a developing relationship, and they do feel like extended family.